All right, in this video, I'm going to expand on our basic app template. I'm going to add a media page. Now, the first thing I want to do is I'm just going to go to my content and I'm going to go to audio, and I'm going to want to actually make sure that I've created some audio. So I've got some audio there. I've got podcasts. Do I have any podcasts? Yeah, I've got like a testing audio podcast there. So that's cool. And I also just want to go to articles because I've got an article called Sermon Series. So if I click up here and click Sermon Series, have I created a few of those? I have. Yep, cool. And if I want to, I can edit that sermon series, customize that sermon series definition, add some extra fields and things like that. But it's got a hero image. That's a text. That's really all we need for the moment. I'm going to go back to my apps. Going to go to websites. Open up my basic app template. You would open up your site or whatever. But I'm just going to switch to the mobile view and click the media page. And I've got not much happening here at the moment, but what I'm going to do is click up here to the new blocks button. I'm just going to search for like the basic list. This is a really simple component. It's going to drop that on the screen. It's just a list. Now, that asks me to choose a data type. So here I'm going to search for sermon series so that we'll get all our sermon series there. And by default, we'll have like a little bit of a link in our HTML. We've got some CSS and the fields to load. We don't need to load the body. We might just add the data object. If I press enter on that, that just means that we've now got the data object in our item. So if I print that out, you'll see I've got the ID, I've got data, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And we actually don't even need that much. We just want the data.image. But what I want to do is put an image at the top. So I'm going to use the fluoro image tag. And I'm just going to do a self-closing one like that. And if you want more information about the components and documentation and things like that of what things you can use here, you just click the question mark up here and you can just pop open the Fluoro View documentation. And here you'll see we've got the Fluoro image and shows you how to use that, what you can do with it. So just here, I've got the Fluoro image. I want to do a colon and an item equals the item.data.image. So item at the moment is the thing that's being spat out. Each of these has a data.image, and you see now we've got the image for each of these series, which is cool. And what we might do is just put add a little bit of style to it. So I'll add a class to this. We'll call it card. This can be class card body, and maybe we'll just put the image up above there, and we'll just do card body in our Sass. Padding can be 15 pixels. Background can be white. And for our card, we might just add a box shadow on that with 3 pixels, maybe 10 pixels, and just a black with a little bit of display block, something like that. So we got a little bit of box shadow, and we also might want a bit of margin at the bottom of that. So we'll do margin bottom 10 pixels, something like that. So we got a bit of a gap. Actually, make that 20. So now you can see we've got a little box for each of those series, which is cool. And they're all loading up in there, which is great. And now you'll notice as well that with the link, it's got like a TO. This is where that link is going to go to. And you can link to a page name with the parameters and things like that. Now, we can just leave that. And up here with the link to page, we can choose we want to link to our media page, which is the page we're on. So what I'm actually going to do is going to create a new page. We're going to call this a series. So we'll just call it series page. And this can be media / and then I'm going to put a colon in here. It's going to do series. So that colon means that this is now a variable that we're going to expect to change. So if we visit this page and we pass through one series ID or series slug or something, it will show the information for that series. If we pass through another one, basically it's a template that can change depending on the content that we send it. So I'm just going to click next, and then that's going to be, you'll see here we've got our media and we've got our our series page. Just to keep this neat, I'm going to create a folder. I'm just going to call this media. I'm just going to drag the media page into there. A little bit finicky there. Drag series into there. And now we've got our media kind of list page and our series page. Now, if we click media down here, we're back to this page. Now what will happen is if we click one of these parenting, like if I click that parenting link there, it should take me to the page. However, I think what I might need to do is add a series here. And we actually want to link to the item ID like that. And then now if we click this, it should take us to the page. Oh, sorry, it's still linking to the media page. I want to change that to link to our series page. And now if I click this, it'll take me across to the series, and we're actually on that page. And you'll notice the little fake omnibar up here, which would be /media/ we've got the ID of the series there. Now, what we can do to test this out is we can get our custom component. Just going to drag. Actually, we don't even need the custom component. We could just do the HTML. They're both the same. So we'll just spit that out here. If I use the pre tag, I can check what do we have on our fluoro.app.page.items. And because this is text align centered, it's going to make it a little bit difficult to see. But you can see we've got the series object. So what's happened is that Fluoro has recognized that we've got a variable here called series. And it's going, well, you're probably going to want to load that from the back end. So I'll go and do that for you. And I'll stick it on the page items. So now we have this series object where we can spit out the title. So we can do that by grabbing this, put it in that title bit up there, and you see it says example series. Now it's going to get a little bit tedious typing this out all the time. So in our computed function down here, we can just call it series like that, add a function, and we'll just return the series object. So return this .fluoro.series, and now we can just get rid of that and just have series.title, which will basically do the same thing. And if we wanted to, we could stick maybe up here the Fluoro image tag again, just like we did before. We'll do item equals series.data.image, and we should get our image up there, which is cool. Looks like that's happening up there, which is good. And I might just add a block class there. I'm just making that up, just so we can go width 100%, overflow hidden, which just means that image will fit the width of the screen so that we're not overflowing off to the edge and expanding that box out too much. And with the VWrap, we might just make that, get rid of the XXL, just as a bit less space here. And H1's a little bit big, let's maybe make that a H3. And now we can just start spitting out the stuff that we want like the information about the series body and stuff like that. So we can do series.body if that's got any text in it. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. I don't think that series actually has any text, but it would spit out like the description of the series and things like that. And now what we want to do is click the plus up here. We're going to choose search for the podcast player. And I'm just going to drag the basic podcast player just underneath that. So what that will do is that should load all of the podcasts that we've got. So you can see it there. We've just got one podcast. But if we click the filter by series, I'll just have a look and see what that does. Give me a moment. It should filter by the... what does that do? Series... gets the sermon series, and does it? I don't know. I'm pretty sure it filters based on the. Let me just check if in here data dots filter by series turns true. Otherwise, it would. I think the track is the podcast. Checks if the sermon series, if there's no sermon series, check if the series slug matches the current series params. which is, this probably just needs to be a little this, and we might just use the get, because I want to make this work for whether it's a ID or a slug. So if we just do that and then do ID, otherwise we'll use the slug, otherwise there's a little bit of a cheat way of doing it, otherwise we can just use that, and we'll just hit save. So that means that basic podcast player should filter by the series, which means if we pick a different series, so if we click back, go to the media page, and we click this one, that means that they'll have no podcast because it isn't in that series. But if we go back and we click example series, we'll see the podcast for that series. So yeah, and the other cool thing about this little podcast player is if you hit play, the player is actually in this footer so that the player can start playing the audio.
This is an audio record.
As you can see there, so that you can have a little player that sticks around. So even if you go to a different page, you can keep playing, and some cool things like that. So yeah, we've just added a media page, and we can take that same kind of idea and create other pages. Like if we go, an upcoming events page, which you can get a list. So I've used the calendar thing to get a broken up date list, but you can just use that list block like we did with the media block, and then we can click example, and then we've got our event, very similar to going to media, seeing a list of all the media, clicking the media object, and then getting the information about that particular series. So that's the basics of it, and we'll have another tutorial as we keep fleshing this app out.